Hello learners, welcome back to this second session of Indian film industry. And so far we have been discussing about what are the various elements of Hindi cinema and how has cinema risen in India from the time of Raja Harishchandra and Alamara kind of movies till date. So let us further explore more aspects of Indian film industry. So I am taking you through an interesting insight of how cinema has developed in the country. So let us look at the regional reach and economics of the film industry now. Apart from Hindi film industry, India has several other smaller film industries as well. Few notable ones are Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, Malayalam, Bengali, Marathi, Bhojpuri, Punjabi, Assamese. At times there would be more than one film industry per state thriving on small cinema halls and DVD sales alone. Like say for example, few years back, Bhojpuri cinema only through their business of DVDs came up to have such a revenue which was next only to the all over Indian Hindi film industry of the Bollywood. So ideally this was a space for regional cinema to explore and made an make an insight for itself so that people are not only accepting it since it is depicting their local cultures and language and cuisines and other things, they're also accepting the message that comes to them through these films. Regional films, while the Hindi film industry has been renamed as Bollywood, the regional industries christen themselves in various ways. They call themselves Mollywood or Kollywood depending upon the region they are originating from. And in the year 2018, about 305 Hindi films were certified by CFBC, which is the Central Board for Film Certification in India, while more than 1400 films of all the various regional languages combined together were certified by CFBC. So you can look at the number of films, the plethora of films that are available in the regional areas. Now what is the trend in these regional cinemas? Many films are being made in one regional languages and then they are dubbed and released in many other languages in order to reach out to the audiences from various regions. So a lot of South Indian films get dubbed in Hindi. And then they're available not only on TV channels, but in different various ways they're available. And one of the stark examples, a few years back has been Bahubali. It was made in two sequels. One was Bahubali The Beginning, which came in the year 2015. And this was shot in Tamil and Telugu and was dubbed later in Malayalam and Hindi as well. And it did some remarkable business in the industry. Then the second sequel was Bahubali The Conclusion, which came in the year 2017. It was shot in Tamil and Telugu and was dubbed later in Hindi, Malayalam, even Japanese, Russian and Chinese. And of course, in my last session, I was talking about the rise of parallel cinema, how branching happened in the post-independence phase, whereby we had two kinds of cinema. One was completely commercial cinema, which was entertainment based, and the other was parallel cinema, which pertained more to the reality of various times. So the parallel cinema was this school of cinema that is not intended at producing film for entertainment of the masses. It is rather there to tell a story following the aesthetics of filmmaking or dealing with a social issue. And this is what we call parallel cinema, something that runs parallel to the prime entertainment commercial film industry. Now these films are called parallel as they provide an alternative from the mainstream. We know what kind of films get produced in the mainstream, and they largely bank upon emotions, on family drama, on action, on romance, on thrillers, on comedy. Those are their genres. But when we talk about parallel cinema, they can talk of something very minuscule and at the same time very pertinent to the society in a way which we would rather call alternative and not the mainstream, because it would not require so much of a drama element. Now, imbibing the features of films from the neo-realistic movement of cinema in Italy, the neo-realistic movement originated in Italy, these films are more non-glamorous, the parallel cinema. So parallel cinema basically originated in Italy, and it was more non-melodramatic and did not thrive on the star power. So even the star cast you would see are people who would identify more with the common man and the way the common man looks, behaves, reacts, so on and so forth. They are renowned for their serious content and socio-political commentary. So films largely are the best way, the safest way, and the most democratic way of speaking out what you would like to in a social setup, in a socio-political setup. So these parallel films are more renowned for their serious content and socio-political commentary in any part of the world. Many filmmakers belonging to this stream of films have won several international laurels, and a few renowned names we already know, right from the time of Satyajit Ray to Shyam Benegal, Mrinal Sen, Adur Gopalakrishnan, who is so famous for his documentaries as well, Girish Karnad, and many, many more. So filmmakers like Hrishikesh Mukherjee and Madhur Bhandarkar, Amir Khan, etc., they've all been said to have found a middle path between the parallel cinema and the commercial cinema. Why? Because parallel alone cannot thrive. It needs the money to thrive. It needs the money to be made into more parallel cinema. So, and the commercial cinema is all about entertainment. It does not usually touch upon issues in a very serious, systematic manner and in a down-to-earth manner. So there has to be a middle path between a film being an art film or a parallel film and a commercial cinema. Now let us look at documentaries. Now this is another, totally another branch of filmmaking, and it is thriving in the country, and it is called documentary filmmaking. These are non-fictional narratives. So say for example, I could be making a film on female feticide in Rajasthan. It could be pertaining to the water problems of a state, say Rajasthan. It could be pertaining to Naxalism in Chhattisgarh and belts of Bihar and all. It could also be pertaining to how people revolt in the northeast and the issues that they take up. It could be pertaining to environment, it could be pertaining to energy, AIDS. There's so many things, so many issues which are existing in the society, and how it is different from parallel cinema is in a documentary. Documentary is a format whereby you are reeling the real. So you are bringing to light the reality without adding any kind of drama, story, scenes, nothing. Parallel cinema is more of a serious kind of a movie making, where they are trying to get as close to reality as possible, but at the same time they are making use of a star cast. They are building up a story which might be inspired from or an adaptation from something which has actually taken place. But in documentaries, you don't try to get a star cast at all. So you do plan a rough script according to which is more of a plan of action of what you're going to do, what you're going to shoot next, and how you're going to depict it in your film, how you're going to get it edited, etc. So this is documentary. Now they are more non-fictional narratives, and they are told through audiovisual medium, and they are always highly based on facts and experiences and recording of those facts and experiences from the horse's mouth, first hand. Filmmakers like Khwaja Ahmad Abbas and Anand Patwardhan have made amazing documentaries which are highlighting various social issues, and at times, getting banned by the governments of in the regime. So say for example, Ram Ke Naam, which came in the year 1992, India's Daughter, which came in 2015. They got banned and were circulated later through DVDs and USB sticks, and even of course through torrents, net torrents. But these are some amazing documentaries. While not being a formal part of any industry, documentaries are not produced on a massive scale as feature films. Why? Because the profit gets hit most of the times, and neither are they released in theaters. So they are screened mainly in film festivals and special screenings that take place from time to time, and there are certain people who would like to organize or sponsor the event, and at times they also find buyers on television or are uploaded on various web platforms. Talking of television, Discovery or Nat Geo, whatever they show about animals and all, they're all in the format of documentaries. But recently, the PVR chain of theatres has forayed into screening documentaries, biographies and other forms of films during few special shows every week. So those kind of films which do not find a place to engage their audiences are sometimes taken up by PVR and such other, and these are good initiatives. In fact, documentaries, parallel cinema are the things that bring anybody closer to life and closer to reality. So any society must give them a respectable space with them. Now this will help these films in reaching out to their audiences more effectively. And of course, there are organizations, government organizations like the PSBT, which is Public Service Broadcasting Trust, and NFDC, National Film Division Corporation, who fund young rising documentary makers and filmmakers in producing their films. So they do support them financially. Now let us talk about corporatization of the film industry in India. For the longest time, film industry was an unorganized sector with most of the people working as freelancers over their entire lifespans. So the contracts were more verbal in nature and the exchange of currency was untapped. So one could not tax this industry. And thus a lot of black money and influence played a role in negotiations and transactions of what came into the final project, be it the star cast or people who were working, the technicians, or the final, the final turn that a story would take. So a lot of alleged connections with the underworld were also started to crop up due to this reason. And many actors and actresses have been linked with the mafia, and a lot of gangsters settled abroad have been claimed to have invested in films in the country. And this is not a hidden reality, we all know about it. In the year 2000, Government of India finally recognized the film production sector as an industry under a policy change. So once it was a part of the organized sector, the shift enabled various corporate houses to get involved in the process of film production. So you would find a Reliance which is funding, you would find any sort of big businesses who funding films today. Why? Because they have become more organized in nature. So, and at many stages such as conceptualizing of a film, such as production of the film, the packaging of the final product, the branding and marketing and presentation of the product in front of the intended audience finds a good amount of support by these people if there are more number of corporate organizations that are joining the business of filmmaking. And each of these stages is further divided into sub-stages and then it is delegated accordingly. The studios are now getting transformed into production houses. So earlier, a certain kind of space with some camera and light and editing facilities maybe, which was called a studio, is now becoming a production house. Why? Because there is a series of production that is going on. And the films are not being merely produced, but they're also going steps ahead with the production and dissemination of the product, also getting, film marketing is an important sphere to delve into. So all those things have led a studio into becoming a proper production house, which may be working for more than one client at any point of time. So with the introduction of big corporates in the market, many associations were formed to deal with issues of rights of the artists and technicians. Because once the sector becomes more organized in nature, you are able to raise a grievance that you have. The industry became more structured and transparent as compared to the monopoly of the producers that existed once upon a time. Now let us look at the reasons for corporatization of the film industry. The opening of Indian economy was one. So international production houses entered the market. There was greater foreign direct investment. And of course, foreign direct investment happened in all sectors, along with which it also happened in cinema. The result was the bar of production standards and the content both rose, which was good for the audiences, which was good for the filmmakers, which was good for those businesses who were putting their monies into the business. And the films became more global in their outlook and swankier in their production. Many films being produced all over the world started getting released in India, thus enabling them to tap that market as well. Say for example, Avatar, which in 2011 James Cameron's film Avatar became the first film to surpass Indian films in terms of box office collections. So this is how FDI, opening up of the market, and globalization has had an impact on the film industry. It has only made things more competitive and global in nature. Then let's talk about, we cannot talk about this industry without talking about digital revolution, which has taken the entire world by a storm. VCRs, DVD players, laptops, PCs, mobiles, smart TVs, all of them expanded the market for films to be screened at home. The digital video cameras also eased the process of production as compared to the film cameras which made use of film stock. The video was easier to shoot and reshoot. It allowed the footage to be screened instantly, to look for errors, and then save time of digitization of stock and post-production as well. So wherever you would spot some errors, you could correct it there and then. Then we talk of multiplex theaters. So far we were talking about the digital revolution, and I have only touched it broadly. It has greater depths to be analyzed in. But yet, talking of the multiplex theaters, now what is a multiplex? It is a complex with many cinema halls. Excuse me. The seating capacity would range from anywhere between 80 or 100 to 400. So this enables films which do not cater to the masses run along with the ones which do. So today you will find an offbeat film running with a blockbuster. So each of these kind of films is reaching out to their own segment without eating into another's competition. So this market is providing space for everybody. And that's the beauty of it. Earlier, smaller films or films which attracted less people were taken off the screens when another film was released. Why? Because it wasn't making profit, so there wasn't any point giving them the spotlight. But today you can afford to do that. Why? Because there are multiplex theaters that are coming up. So many films also lost out on their ticket sales just because they were released along with some other important popular film which might have a more popular star cast, and thus were not given enough screens. Even till this date, we find that during festivals like Eid or Diwali, certain stars and certain production houses would like to release their films and others would hold back so that they don't find some direct competition with this product. Now also let us look at the growing overseas market. Indian cinema has made its presence felt in the US, in the Gulf, in the UK, most parts of the globe. And many filmmakers like Karan Johar have been perceived to make films for the overseas audiences. Why? Because they play with a certain segment of the audience who is better placed than the others, who have certain kinds of cultivated tastes which are more global in nature, so on and so forth. And with a huge Indian population settling abroad, the need for Indian films overseas has been rising. And that is also the reason why Indian Hindi films, or even otherwise, have been making great profits. Now, we have so far looked into how corporatization happened and what were the reasons for those corporatization to happen in the film industry. Now let us look at how it affected the market at large. So when we talk about the effects of corporatization, the finances became much more transparent. Why? Because film industry became an organized sector. So the production houses and producers started paying income tax and the black money circulation was curbed. And of course, resources were better utilized. There is a practice of sharing actors, studios and other resources across production houses. Say for example, when Karan Johar's production house signs a new star, they sign this star for 3 or 4 projects together, and they see to it that the profit is also slightly marginalized. And the contracts are legally binding. Things have started getting documented now. Earlier they were more verbal in nature. So you're there today and you're not there tomorrow. But now it has started getting more documented, so it is legally binding on both the parties, and the scripts are also bound and given to the star cast well in advance so that they can, you know, read through it, get into the skin of the character, do their homework, whatever is required before the shooting commences. Fair practice and payment methods have taken a seat, which is a good idea. The salaries of the actors and crew have increased many-fold over the past few years. And the quality of films has also improved in order to compete with Hollywood films that are being released in India. See, because the new economic policy had come from the 1990s till this date, when we are having even business houses investing into films, it has become important that we look at the quality of the productions we make in order to create a niche for ourselves, and so that we do not lose out to the global competition. Like, say for example, Bahubali, and I just said that it was made even in Chinese and Russian, and it appealed to the audiences of other countries as well. So it is time that we take the center stage when it comes to the competition and the way they look at creativity. So, many regional, the quality of films has also improved in order to compete with Hollywood films that are being released in India, and alongside many regional industries have also benefited, promoting the folk heritage and culture through cinema. So, a number of times we would see regional belt being highlighted in a cinema which may be presented even to the NRIs. So, this has helped in the regional cinema thriving better than how it did earlier. Now, let us look at the impact on culture. We all understand, like with the first session we were discussing, we began with saying that there is a humongous effort which cinema makes to create an impact, to create an effect on the society, and it definitely has an indelible impact on the society one way or the other. It is not only a representation, a reflection of our society and our polity, it is also affecting the society in certain manners. Now, let's say for example, let's discuss revenue generation. India has been the largest film producer and distributor since the past few years. Now, while the country releases more than 1,000 films a year, the film industry of Mumbai alone has been estimated as a multi-billion-dollar industry. So you can imagine the kind of money that gets involved in this entire industry and why it is called the showbiz. The revenue is generated not only by ticket sales, but also by selling satellite broadcast rights of a certain film. The way sports has started thriving these days, sports rights, the rights to broadcast a game is sold off to different channels. Similarly, they sell satellite broadcast rights of films. There are media partnerships that happen. So you might see a Jagran group or a Bhaskar group coming together along with other business groups, and together they make a production so that each of them gets a part in the profit. And then product placements and brand endorsements and web premiere, all of these, there are product placements which are happening, there is in-film advertising which is happening, brand endorsements take place. So in a film you will see a popular star holding a certain kind of drink, and the name will be clearly seen, clearly visible on the screen. So that is what is happening. There are a greater number of brand endorsements that are taking place, and of course the web premiere. So on the internet there is a premiere of this movie going on. So all of these are effects on our culture, and they are also the best ways of generating revenue. Avenues for expenditure include hiring the equipment. Now, if we talk about revenue generation, it is important to understand what are the avenues for expenditure first. Where do we spend and how much do we gain? So now the expenditure includes hiring the equipment, hiring the crew, hiring the cast, traveling for shooting, music rights, getting the special effects done, editing suits, and distribution of them. So all of it together. So, and this has come to a stage when we have already, entered into the 100 crore club or the 1,000 crore club. So for the past few years, the unofficial club created by media houses, which is called the 100 crore club, has been existing. And the first film to cross it was Disco Dancer way back in the year 1982. And now we also have a 1,000 crore club which surpassed the 100 crore club and has big names like Bahubali, Bahubali Part 2, the conclusion, and Dangal, which was released in the year 2017 by Amir Khan Productions. But adjusting with the inflation rate, the revenue generated by Mughal-e-Azam way back in the year 1975 remains the highest till now in the history of Indian cinema. And of course, it incurred a lot of expenditure during that time as well, but the kind of profits it has made has remained a benchmark till date. Okay, other elements of this film industry also include stardom and glamour. When I say stardom, it is a phenomena under which the actors, the musicians and other public faces are idolized by the public for their work on screen. So people, the common people, start idolizing these stars in various ways. The Indian audience puts the movie stars on a high pedestal, we all know that, and the actors become the ambassadors of a film, despite the fact that it took more than 100 people to produce that film. Yet who is it who is the ambassador? The star cast. The adulation places, a lot of power in the hands of these stars. They make hits out of films through ticket sales itself. Like we all know there can be film stars who are still there in Bollywood who have crossed a certain age, whose films do not have much of a storyline in them. But just because of their presence, they end up entering whatever 100 crore or 1,000 crore club. So the films sell because of the star cast. They also set fashion trends and they attract a lot of unwarranted attention in their personal lives as well. Paparazzi was another kind of an alternative career, so to say, which was born out of this phenomena. And stardom has also resulted in deterioration of content in some instances. Like whenever we talk about such star cast which shines so bright that the product becomes dimmed. At such kind of in such kind of projects and films, the content always suffers. Politics. Now this is the second screen for stars, second career for stars who've gained popularity over the years. We know a lot of successful stars have tried their hands at politics. Alternatively, a number of stars use films for propaganda. So it is both ways. One is that the stars get into politics after a certain period of time, after having established themselves in the film world. And the other is that a number of stars start using films for propaganda. So many fringe political groups use it to get highlighted in the mainstream media. Say for example, again dating back to 2017, we had Sanjay Leela Bhansali's film called Padmavat, and Rajasthan's Karni Sena protested against this film. So basically it got some good mileage. The political party ended up earning good mileage out of the controversy that was created for the films. Now let us look at social impact. The social impact, of course, is huge. There is a huge fan following amongst commoners. There is a behavior imitation. Now whenever we study imitation, I will not get too much into details because we are talking of films at this point of time. But whenever we talk about imitation, imitation is of 2-3 different kinds. One is when you are only in a shallow manner you are trying to imitate somebody. Say for example the hairstyle or the way a person talks or the way a person dresses up. The other kind of imitation is how a person would react in a given situation. So if, because I imitate a certain star, I would like to know and think about how this person would react in this kind of a situation, then I would like to mold my behavior accordingly. So behavior imitation again varies at different levels with different audiences. And then of course, another negative impact is the body image issues. Earlier, long back, many years back, almost 100 years back now, when Barbie was launched, the doll, Barbie doll was launched in the US, a lot of people protested against it because the kind of disproportionate figure she had was something which was impossible for young girls, teenagers, women to get, and all of them aspired to have Barbie kind of a figure. So the body image issues started rising then and there, and of course the star cast of any film becomes the reason for people in general to have body image issues, both men and women. And dangerous imitation by youth and children in order to idealize can lead to loss of life as well. Like when I talk about children, we all know there have been serials like Shaktiman, whereby children have jumped from certain stairs and all because they wanted to imitate Shaktiman. So all the superheroes character for that matter have been a cause of accident at some point of time for children in general. Now, so what do we do? So hence statutory advice is always given in the beginning of the film. Like say for example, the advice that is given against cancer which gets caused by excessive smoking, or why drunk driving is not safe. So they will not only give a disclaimer, they will also give a statutory advice against alcohol consumption and against the stunts which have been done by practiced professionals as compared to any person copying them. So films are also a reflection of the social problems. So films have created a certain kind of an impact which, and obviously when we live in a society, there are both positive and negative impacts. The perils cannot be totally undone. And these have been the perils, but of course they have also been a reflection of our social problems, because films, I think, are the only way which are very open in saying what they want to say in a most democratic manner. Probably newspapers are not, news channels are not, a lot of other platforms and media are not, but films are. Now let us look at the art and production aspect of this. In the digital era, while the film industry entered the digital era in the late 90s, the film stock was replaced by tapes which were loaded in the cameras, and they were unloaded, and they could be sent straight to the editing labs. They could also be reused by being overwritten, at least for the stock footage. So the cost of initial resources required to produce a film went down drastically. So that was the nice part of the digitization of art and production aspect of filmmaking. The cameras were cheaper and they could operate in lesser light. There was no shortage of stock anymore. The footage could be reviewed as soon as it was shot. There was no time wasted in processing. Earlier it used to take time to be processed and only then you could edit and review it. Now that's not the case. Adding special effects etc. also became very easy with the ease of production. This was one of the reasons for revival of religious and mythological epics being made for screen, as many visual tricks were invented along with this innovation. So that brought back mythology to our screens, TV screens once more. During the era of the film reels used to reach the cinema halls in tin boxes to be loaded in the projectors and screen. With digital technology, the film does not even need to reach to the hall physically. The show can be relayed over, reducing the chances of being copied and pirated. Earlier, the band C towns, the B and C class towns used to receive already run prints and reprints of the same film after the film got off the screens in the A class towns. So as a result, the quality would suffer. So farther away the town, the more spoiled the print of a film reaching it. With digital technology, each copy is as good as new and original. Many production houses like the Ad Lab, Sahara, UTV have started producing film on the digital platforms and digital formats. This reduction in cost has allowed a scope for experimentation with content. Only when you're sure of the kind of money you have, the kind of financial support that you have, can you decide to experiment to a certain extent. Concepts that were supposed to be riskier earlier found many takers after the introduction of digitization. There's also certain kind of international presence that Indian film industry has enjoyed over a vast period now. From Raj Kapoor's Soviet connection to inspiring musicals in Hollywood, Indian cinema has earned laurels and money both overseas. Tamil, Malayali, Bengali films have also won awards like Oscars and the Cannes Award. Indian filmmakers like Satyajit Ray, Mrinal Sen, Manikal, and in recent times Anurag Kashyap has been the flag bearer as far as the Indian subcontinent is concerned. and A.R. Rahman, Bhanu Athaiya, Gulzar are a few of the Indians who have been facilitated at the Academy Awards. Now there is also diaspora filmmakers. When I say diaspora filmmakers, NRIs have ventured into filmmaking. So far I have been discussing that the market is expanding. There is greater business and revenue coming from Indian films because there are a lot of NRIs who are residing in all parts of the world. Now with coming of diaspora filmmakers, NRIs have ventured into filmmaking. They collectively are also called the diaspora filmmakers, and these films deal with the lives and struggles of the NRIs. The list of directors and producers has names like Gurinder Chadda, Meera Nair, Manoj Shyamlan, etc. Now let's talk about the last bit of it, which is the challenges of this industry. Uncertainty in business is the major challenge that the film industry faces. And what formulae have we come up with in order to curtail this challenge? Romantic films usually are a way of seeing to it that certain amount of profit is made. Heist films, people robbing the bank and something exciting happening on that front. Heist films, comedy films, action films, family drama, all of these are genres which have become the formula which does not really ensure that the film will be a hit, but most of the times maximum amount of investment it is able to recuperate. And this is combined with good music and star power in order to reduce this uncertainty of the film business. The more challenges are piracy. We all know that there are the net torrents which are there, and various ways how people pirate movies, and that kills the creative worth of any creative product. Then political and social scenario is also there to be considered, because it not only does the society and the polity affect the kind of films that are made, it is also the other way around. So, and of course there is competition from other modes of entertainment like Netflix, like Amazon Prime, like Z5. So we have a lot of 6 to 8 video on demand services which are operating in India currently, and which are providing a tough competition not only to the TV segment but also to the films. Then there is a greater scope for development. This scope of development includes film tourism. When you see a lot of exotic foreign locales coming basically from Switzerland, people in general get an idea that Switzerland is maybe the best place to visit. So it can promote film tourism that ways. And of course skill enhancement. I will just talk about skill enhancement. Also there are greater business opportunities like in film advertising. When a certain product or service is being advertised for in the brand, it could be through the logo of BMW car, it could be with the drink that the star has in his hands, it could be anything. So all those are examples of in-film advertising, and they are, I call them a scope for development because they are a kind of business opportunity, a way of revenue generation. Also, there is greater upgrading with the new technology. So we see that today most of the films of the West are 3D films, but we still have to match up to them. We are still in the 2D mode, and virtual reality is being used in films abroad, but Indian films have not started making use of it so far. And of course interactive narratives, whereby you make the film or the product so interactive that the audience is able to decide the climax. So you have an option between the two options that have been provided, and each will lead to a different kind of an end. So there are greater number of interactive narratives, whereby, why is it done? It is done so that more number of people, more number of audiences become engaged with the content that you're offering to them. And the fields with high demand for skilled manpower, okay, I was just talking about skill development while I was talking about the scope. These are the various sectors where we demand high skilled manpower. Scripting, we demand more people for dialogue writing, graphic drawing, artists for storyboards, etc. Songwriting, we require more poets who can compose well, music directors, sound studio personnel, and voiceover providers, voiceover artists. Then there is also set design. We require designers and builders who can create sets in a short period of time. Lighting, Gaffer, light boys, electricians, all of them are always in demand. Costumes, we require designers, resource persons and managers who can manage the costumes of the star cast. Planning, location, the shooting schedule, the shooting permission is all required. Then we also require camera persons and focus pullers, camera assistants, equipment handling men. Amongst actors, we don't only require the lead cast, we also require people in supporting role and as side actors. As far as choreographers are concerned, we need people who can choreograph action sequences as well as dance sequences. And then we require editors, which could be the music editor, the film editor, the promo editor, etc. As far as special effects are concerned, people who are in high demand are animators, special effect artists, color correctors, etc. And for marketing, we require people who are the promoters of the product, the media planners, the coordinators and distributors. So that is all for this session, and I hope you found both these sessions today together as more holistic and have given you a vivid idea of what the Indian film industry looks like. Thank you for being with us. Have a good day.